The lunch rush had just ended when everything in Marissa Hale's life collapsed in a single, breathless moment. Sunlight spilled across the chrome counters of Blueberry Junction Cafe, warming the scratched floor tiles where she stood trembling, still holding the lost wallet she'd chased 3 blocks to return. She hadn't expected the owner's nephew would storm in minutes later, face flushed with entitlement, announcing in front of customers and staff that her unauthorized absence made her a liability. She barely had time to speak before she was fired on the spot. 1 minute she was balancing plates and smiling through exhaustion, and the next she was standing outside in the harsh midday light, uniform apron still tied around her waist, as if the world had kicked her out of it. If you're watching this and believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of one good action, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Good Deed Stories to help this message spread. Marissa didn't cry right away. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, heart racing, staring at the wallet in her hand. The wallet that belonged to an elderly man she'd seen earlier, the man who walked out forgetting it on the counter. She'd run after him without thinking, weaving through pedestrians, because that was how she was raised. You saw someone drop something important, you brought it back. Simple as that. Yet somehow, doing the right thing had cost her the little stability she had left. And it hurt more than she expected. Maybe because she needed that job to survive, or maybe because she believed, naively perhaps, that good deeds still mattered. The sun beat down on her as she walked home, the city bustling around her as if mocking her suddenly fractured world. Cars honked, children laughed in the nearby park, and people hurried past without noticing the young woman moving mechanically along the sidewalk, apron still tied, name tag still on, hope slipping through her fingers. She replayed the moment over and over, the harsh tone, the cold words, the stunned silence of her coworkers. She'd given everything to that cafe for 2 straight years, showing up early, covering shifts, working double hours whenever asked. And still, she was disposable. Her apartment, a tiny room in an aging building, felt suffocating when she stepped inside. Faded curtains let in strips of light that only highlighted how empty the space was. She sank onto her old couch, letting the wallet rest on the table in front of her. For several long minutes, she simply sat numb. Her rent was due in 5 days. Her electricity bill already had the overdue notice. Her groceries were down to a bag of rice and 2 cans of soup. She'd been holding her world together with sheer will, and now it was sliding apart. Eventually she picked up the wallet, checking for an address. She hadn't opened it earlier since returning it was her only focus, but now she carefully flipped it open. Inside was a folded note with a name written in neat handwriting. Harlan Pierce. She recognized it vaguely. Some charitable foundation maybe. She wasn't sure. But the address was there, neatly printed on another card. She knew she needed to return it properly. Even if it didn't change anything. She refused to let losing her job turn her into someone she wasn't. So she walked. The sun dipped a little lower, the afternoon breeze cooling the city streets as she made her way through quieter neighborhoods. After nearly 30 minutes, she found herself in front of a beautiful townhouse with a manicured garden. For a moment she hesitated, feeling out of place, but then she gathered the courage to approach. When she knocked, the door opened to reveal the elderly man, Mr. Pierce, his silver hair gently tousled, his warm eyes widening with recognition when he saw the wallet. "Yo, you ran after me earlier," he said, voice soft and surprised. "I didn't even realize I'd lost it." Marissa offered a small, wary smile. "I'm glad I could get it back to you." The gratitude on his face was genuine, so genuine it almost made her break down. He invited her inside for a glass of water. And even though she felt awkward and out of place, she accepted. Sitting in the living room, she watched sunlight bounce off framed photographs of family and friends on the walls. She felt warmth in the space, something comforting she hadn't felt in her life for some time. Mr. Pierce listened closely as she, without meaning to, revealed that she had lost her job because of returning his wallet. She tried to soften the story to avoid sounding pitiful. But the truth came through anyway. His expression shifted from concern to quiet outrage, though he kept his reactions gentle out of respect. "I'm terribly sorry you were treated that way," he said softly. "Doing good should never cost someone their livelihood." She smiled faintly, brushing away the emotion rising in her chest. "It's okay. I'll figure something out." Mr. Pierce studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly, as though storing every detail in his mind. He thanked her again, insisted she take a small reward which she politely declined, and she left the house feeling strangely lighter, though still uncertain about her future. The rest of the day passed in a blur. She spent hours applying online for jobs, sitting in the soft afternoon light near her window, her mind heavy but determined. She didn't have the luxury to fall apart. Not with rent looming. Not with her younger sister, Avery, depending on her support when needed. She cooked a small bowl of rice for dinner, then sat quietly on her couch, still wearing her apron. Exhaustion wrapped around her like a blanket she couldn't shake off, but she didn't expect what happened next. Just as day began turning into warm, golden evening, a knock echoed through her apartment. It was firm, authoritative, and unlike anything she usually heard in her quiet hallway. She hesitated before opening the door, heart thudding, and froze when she saw who was standing there. A tall man in an expensive suit, polished shoes, and an expression that mixed purpose with curiosity. Behind him stood a sleek black car, and for a moment Marissa thought she was dreaming. The man spoke her name with surprising gentleness. "Ms. Hale. I'm Dawson Mercer." The name hit her like a whisper carried on the wind. She'd heard it before, splashed across newspapers, the news, business magazines. Dawson Mercer, the billionaire owner of the Mercer Hospitality Group, which included Blueberry Junction Cafe. Her cafe. The one she'd just been fired from. She stammered before finding her voice. What are you doing here?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked her over, noticing her tired eyes, her worn apron, the bewilderment etched on her face. His gaze softened. "I heard about what happened today," he said calmly, "and I needed to speak to you personally." Marissa's breath caught. She stepped aside slowly, letting him in, though embarrassment washed over her as he entered her small, nearly empty living room. Yet Dawson showed no hint of judgment. He sat on the edge of the couch, posture respectful, hands resting calmly. He explained everything. Mr. Pierce, whose full name was actually Harlan Pierce Mercer, was Dawson's uncle, a philanthropist, a quiet figure in their family, a man whose word Dawson trusted deeply. And after hearing what happened to Marissa, he had immediately called his nephew and demanded he do something. But it wasn't just that. Dawson himself had gone to the cafe to investigate and discovered security footage confirming Marissa hadn't abandoned her shift recklessly, but had chased after a valuable wallet with heartfelt urgency. He'd interviewed staff. He'd learned she was known for being reliable, hardworking, and kind, and he'd learned she was fired unfairly by a manager whose authority had long been questionable. Dawson took a long breath before continuing, eyes steady on hers. "Ms. Hale, I'm here to apologize. Personally, what happened to you was wrong, and it won't stand." Her eyes blurred with emotion. She hadn't expected justice. She hadn't expected anything. Dawson stood then, offering her a thin envelope. "This is compensation. Your full salary for the next 3 months. But more importantly, I want to offer you something else." She swallowed hard as he continued. "We're opening a new flagship cafe downtown, one that will serve as a community hub. My uncle insists, and I agree, that someone like you should be part of it. I'd like you to join our management training program. Paid, full benefits, and a guaranteed position once training is complete." Marissa stared at him, heart pounding, unable to find breath or words. She had dreamed of stability, of opportunity, of a chance to grow beyond minimum wage jobs. But this was life-changing. Her voice cracked when she finally whispered, Why would you do this for me?" Dawson smiled faintly. "Because good people deserve good things. Because kindness should never cost someone everything. And because sometimes the world needs reminders that doing the right thing matters." Tears escaped before she could stop them. She pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed by the weight of everything, her loss, her fear, her unexpected salvation. Dawson didn't speak as she cried. He simply let her feel it all. Hours later, after he'd left with a promise to send her the details in the morning, Marissa sat in her apartment, no longer feeling small or helpless. Instead, she felt seen, valued, lifted by something greater than luck. If this moment touched your heart, or reminded you that kindness can change a life, please take a second to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Good Deed Stories. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories into the world. She started imagining what life could look like now, paying her bills on time, helping Avery through college, maybe even moving to a nicer place with sunlight that didn't filter through frayed curtains. She felt hope blooming inside her, soft but powerful. Before the video ends, please comment, kindness always returns. And with that, Marissa's story stands as a reminder that sometimes the smallest good deed can open the biggest doors, especially when the world is watching.